Most people still believe being good will protect them, that kindness is a shield and patience wins in the end. But look around. Who gets crushed first? It's never the cruel or the arrogant. It's the soft, the kind, the ones who think goodness earns them mercy. 5 centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli exposed this lie. Betrayed, exiled, stripped of everything, he realized that power belongs not to the kind, but to the clear-minded. His prince wasn't about cruelty, it was about survival in a world that feeds on the naive. This video will show you how to survive it, how to stay kind without being weak, how to build power without noise, and how to become untouchable in a world that preys on emotion. Because if you watch till the end, you'll stop mistaking goodness for weakness, and start using clarity as your weapon. That's the choice, the quiet war everyone's already in. Most never realize it, because it doesn't look like a choice. It feels like betrayal, the first time silence is exploited, kindness mistaken for weakness, loyalty repaid with disrespect. Then comes the voice. Maybe you're the fool. Maybe your goodness is what's bleeding you dry. But instead of waking up, you double down, softer, quieter, hoping someone will finally treat you right. The world doesn't reward purity. It rewards power. And power, as Machiavelli wrote, isn't about how much love you attract, but how much loss you endure without breaking. The strong don't beg, don't explain, don't let others define them. Every time you let something slide, you train people to hurt you better next time. Here's the trap, everyone thinks they're the exception. They think they can stay kind and still win. Until they realize the ones they helped are the first to betray them. You'll rationalize it, insecurity, misunderstanding, anything but the truth, they did it because they could. Because they didn't fear the cost. And fear, that's the hidden currency of every connection. Not terror, but quiet consequence. If crossing you has no price, you'll always be used, ignored, discarded the moment you're no longer useful. Love without respect becomes pity, and pity is just contempt in disguise. Once you see that, everything changes. You stop asking why, stop excusing, stop hoping the world plays fair. You start building leverage, not noise, not control, but undeniable strength, clarity, restraint, self-discipline. Power that doesn't need to shout. Silence that warns. But to reach that level, you have to let go of the parts that crave approval, the need to be liked, understood, or treated fairly. People don't change because you love them harder, they change when they realize you won't tolerate disrespect. And that realization will cost you. You'll be called cold, distant, ruthless. That's the price of being unbreakable. Because ruthlessness isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's knowing when to walk, when to strike, and when mercy becomes a weapon against you. You won't learn it from books, only from betrayal, from the moment you finally say no, and they look at you like you've committed a crime. The self-sacrificing always call boundaries selfish, that's how you know the line is right. Machiavelli never told us to become monsters. He taught us to become unshakable, to survive in a world that feeds on hesitation. To be the kind of person who doesn't flinch in the fire, who needs no closure, no apologies, no validation. When you reach that state, ruthless not out of hate, but necessity, you stop needing to be understood. You only need to be untouchable. That's when silence outweighs noise, presence commands respect, and people adjust themselves the moment you walk in. That's the Machiavellian way, not rage, not drama, but control. Control born from knowing you could destroy everything and still walk away calm. But you can't fake it. The world will test you, push you, insult you, waiting for you to fold. And the moment you do, they'll know your strength was performance. But if you don't, if you meet insult with silence, betrayal with indifference, and pressure with precision, something shifts. Those who once doubted you begin to fear disappointing you. Not because you're cruel, but because they finally see you don't need them. Needing nothing from anyone is the most dangerous power there is. When you no longer need, you finally choose to walk away without flinching, to negotiate without begging, to lead without seeking permission. And people feel that. They sense it the way animals sense dominance, something primal, wordless, impossible to fake. It's earned in small moments, a steady gaze, a pause that says no, a calm refusal to react. That's what real ruthlessness is, not chaos or noise, but precision. The kind that doesn't destroy the world, only the illusions that kept you weak. When those illusions burn away, reality comes into focus, not cruel, not fair, just true. And in that truth, everyone plays a game. Some fight to survive. Others to rule. But the few who win, they play to outlast. To endure, you must harden, again and again, until strength isn't a mask you wear but the skin you live in. That doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means feeling no longer makes your choices. You still care, but within limits. You still love, but with judgment. And you still give, but only where it's earned. That's the line between the broken and the ruthless. The broken give to prove worth, the ruthless give because they decide to. Machiavelli understood that power isn't about being feared, it's about being respected because you could retaliate but don't. Restraint terrifies more than rage because it proves you're in control. Those who choose when others react own the field. But you'll never reach that point if rejection still shakes you, if you still explain yourself to the deaf, if you keep proving value to those who profit from your doubt. Once you see that being undervalued isn't a wound but a filter, everything shifts. You reclaim power through absence, not revenge. Silence becomes your weapon, distance your shield, detachment your armor. The beauty is in the quiet, no confrontation, no speeches, just disappearance. A void louder than any defense. And the world always notices. In a culture addicted to noise and validation, the one who doesn't chase becomes magnetic, the one who walks away without applause becomes unforgettable. That's power without noise, authority without arrogance, control without display. But here's the paradox, the more ruthless you grow, the more temptation arises to kill your humanity too. That's not mastery. True strength protects its heart so deeply that only the worthy ever reach it. You're not meant to become a monster, only untouchable. You keep your values but stop advertising them. You set boundaries but enforce them silently. You offer trust in fragments, not floods. And you stop expecting others to act as you would. That expectation is the birthplace of disappointment. When you release it, betrayal stops surprising you. Nothing shocks you anymore, and when nothing shocks you, nothing breaks you. Most people live in endless loops of hope and hurt, opening up to be understood and ending up rejected. Each round makes them smaller. You won't. You take the third path, the strategic one. You watch more, speak less, listen instead of explain. You stop handing people the script to hurt you. Let them assume. Let them misread. Let them underestimate. Every misunderstanding is leverage. The more unreadable you become, the heavier your presence grows. People fear what they can't predict. And when your calm becomes unreadable, when you stop oversharing and over-explaining, you stop being a person, you become a mystery. The less you explain, the more they respect. This isn't about playing games, it's about understanding them so you're never the pawn again. Life will test you through people, flatterers, challengers, false allies who love you until you say no. Each one teaches the same law, keep your emotions yours. As you master that, reaction dies, and power takes its place. Your peace becomes sacred, your time valuable, your access limited. Not out of cruelty, but because you've bled enough for those who brought no bandages. You read patterns, Not promises, silence, not speeches. You stop admiring potential and start trusting consistency. Then the world changes shape. It stops looking like war and starts looking like a board, one you already know how to win. You move 10 steps ahead, unbothered by fools, ready to walk away at any time. You don't flinch. You don't chase. You don't justify. You just hold the line. Because power isn't what you do, it's what you can resist doing. The strength to destroy and the wisdom not to. That's what inspires fear and earns respect. Not rage, but restraint. Not dominance, but composure. That's when people start questioning themselves before they ever question you. You either break or you build this version of yourself, the one that doesn't ask for fairness but creates balance, doesn't demand loyalty but observes it, doesn't shout boundaries but lives them. A version that no longer needs the world to be kind, because you've become strong enough to face it exactly as it is. And when that happens, you become the rarest thing alive, someone the world can't manipulate, can't read, and can't destroy. You've already rebuilt yourself from worse. And once you've done that, nothing can touch you again. You either collapse, or you evolve into something ruthless. And once you choose that path, you never go back. Not out of bitterness, but because you finally understand your value, and you'll never let the world define it for you again. No one tells you this. When you step into that ruthless version of yourself, the air around you changes. People look at you differently, speak differently, hesitate before crossing their line. They can't explain what shifted, but they feel it. You're not louder. You're not crueler. You're sharper. Like a blade hidden behind calm eyes, silent, focused, impossible to touch. That's presence. That's power. Because now you're not chasing approval, you're assessing everything. Does this person bring clarity or confusion? Strength or distraction? And when the answer leans toward chaos, you cut it off, fast, quiet, clean. No guilt. No second tries. Because you've learned the truth, not everything that once felt good deserves to stay. Machiavelli called this strategic cruelty, not in action, but in selection. Ruthlessness isn't just about confronting enemies. It's about choosing allies wisely, deciding who earns proximity, who gets your trust, who's allowed to see the real you. If you still let people in just because they ask nicely, you're not in your power yet. Being ruthless means no one is automatically safe in your circle. Not out of coldness, but because you finally value peace more than misplaced loyalty. Most cling to what's familiar because they fear starting over. You don't. You've made peace with emptiness. You've turned solitude into a weapon. And that makes you dangerous, because the one who's not afraid to be alone can't be manipulated by loneliness. That's why the world tries to keep you soft. It calls endless forgiveness noble and understanding everyone's pain wise. But wisdom turns to weakness when it costs your boundaries. Compassion becomes corruption when it teaches you to tolerate disrespect just to be seen as good. There's nothing noble in being stepped on. Nothing wise in enduring humiliation under the banner of kindness. At some point, you stop confusing pain tolerance with strength. Pain is not a currency, and if you keep paying and suffering, you'll keep attracting those who expect you to bleed. So you make a new rule: no more explaining, no more pleading to be understood, no more giving 10 chances just to avoid looking harsh. You strip away the noise. You say your boundary once, and let your actions enforce it. You don't teach respect with speeches, you teach it with consequences. When people realize that crossing you brings no reward, they stop. And the ones who don't, they leave on their own, because there's nothing left to take. Perfect. Let them go. As Machiavelli would say, let them think the exit was their choice. That's mastery, never force, only pressure so subtle that resistance becomes exhausting. And that's not manipulation. That's efficiency. The refusal to waste energy convincing those already committed to misunderstanding you. Because not everyone deserves full access. Sometimes the strongest move is silence, letting absence do what words never could. Once people see you're not emotionally dependent, the masks fall. Manipulation loses power. Clarity takes over. That's the reward of being ruthless. You stop falling for performance. You see people as they are, and you act accordingly. Life simplifies. Fewer conversations, but real. Fewer connections, but clean. Less noise, more movement. Less chaos, more precision. And in that space, your power begins to breathe, calm, deliberate, untouchable. Of course, some will resent it. They'll call you distant, cold, too serious. They'll be right, you've changed. You had to. The old you was drowning in overthinking, emotional labor, and quiet self-betrayal. You shrank to keep others comfortable. Now you take up space. Unapologetically. You bend until you broke. Now you let things snap before you fold. And if that makes them uneasy, let them squirm. You weren't built to be pleasant, you were built to be powerful. Not to be molded, but to stand firm. When you fully accept that truth, you stop living defensively. You stop worrying who might leave, who might misread you, who might gossip. You stop chasing safety and start designing strategy. Because here's what you've finally learned: people don't respect good intentions. They respect outcomes. They don't follow kindness, they follow clarity. If you're still leading with softness in a world that worships strength, you're feeding yourself to the wolves. But when you flip the order, lead with strength, reveal softness only to the deserving, everything changes. Your compassion gains weight. Your kindness gains teeth. Your yes means something because you're not afraid to say no. That's real power, not loud or cruel, but quiet, precise, unshakable. The kind that shifts a room without a word. People feel it, the calm of someone who built themselves alone, brick by painful brick. You either collapse or build the fortress within, rejection by rejection, boundary by boundary, until nothing's left the world can threaten. You've faced your worst, losing yourself. And you survived. Now you're back, sharper, steadier, scarred, but fearless. This version doesn't bargain with disrespect or justify itself to those who twist truth. It doesn't shrink to fit old spaces. It walks alone, not from pride, but from peace. Because once you have nothing to prove, you finally have everything to gain. Silence becomes your language. Stillness, your answer. The gains shrink, not because they're small, but because you've outgrown reaction itself. That's what ruthlessness perfects: composure. You stop explaining, stop chasing closure, stop asking why. Knowing is enough. And that knowing is your exit, clean, final, surgical. That precision, that quiet decisiveness, is what the world fears most. The moment you vanish because staying no longer serves you. That's the shift, from reaction to choice. You decide who gets access, what earns your energy, what deserves response. Being underestimated becomes leverage. They won't see you coming until it's over. Machiavelli knew, the ones who speak of power rarely hold it. The dangerous stay silent until silence no longer serves. They let others assume, and then they move, once. No drama. No return. That's ruthlessness, not destruction, but control. You forge that control by shedding weakness. You stop mistaking shared history for loyalty, validation for connection, potential for proof. You stop discounting your worth. Because the broken version of you accepted what the real one never would, laughed at disrespect, tolerated betrayal, called competition friendship. You called it peacekeeping, but it was self-erasure. You wore kindness like armor and still got hit. The world doesn't stop when you surrender, it stops when you stop reacting. When you fight with silence, with distance, with boundaries. That's control. And it terrifies those who once fed on your chaos. Now you move differently, fewer words, smaller circle, sharper focus. You build quietly and reveal nothing. When asked what you're doing, you give confusion, never clarity. Not everyone deserves front row access to your evolution. When you open up, it's by decision, not dependence. You no longer bleed for the ungrateful or explain yourself to the blind. That's ruthlessness, not cruelty, but loyalty to your peace. Choosing solitude over tolerance. Understanding your standards aren't high, they're just unaffordable for the wrong people. Then everything shifts. People feel the distance, the silence, the absence of apology. They call it ego, coldness, selfishness, anything but strength. Let them. While they talk, you build. Quietly. Relentlessly. Like a storm no one sees forming. Your goal isn't to be liked, it's to be undeniable. To be so grounded that no praise or insult can touch you. That's untouchable, when your strength stops depending on permission. You trade validation for precision. You speak less, observe more, move cleaner. You stop explaining to those who never built anything, stop asking advice from spectators, stop dimming your light for those afraid of brightness. You realize most people aren't disturbed because you changed, but because they didn't. The deeper you go, the quieter it gets. Not loneliness, focus. Not isolation, freedom. You stop needing crowds, you start needing direction. Not noise, but momentum. Not belief, but certainty. And that's when the old self dies, the one that waited, apologized, begged to be seen. You bury that version under every act of restraint, every boundary, every moment you chose purpose over approval. From it rises someone sharper, calm under loss, steady in solitude, unmoved by uncertainty. Because you've faced your own doubt and turned it into armor. And from that moment on, life stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like design. Every silence becomes a message. Every boundary, a blueprint. Every decision, a declaration that you no longer move by instinct, you move by intention. You're no longer part of the noise. You're the one shaping it, the architect of your own advantage. And when the world tries to pull you back, it won't find you where you used to be. Because you've turned what broke you into strategy, and what hurt you into power. That's not the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new order. If you're ready to learn how to build that order piece by piece, watch the Machiavellian Power as Design playlist. Every video is another layer of your fortress. Another step toward the version of you that never bends again.